Welcome to Eye to Eye. I'm Bart Leroy. Today I'm talking with Dr. Dominik Fischer of the University of Tübingen, Germany, about the current state and future prospects for retinal gene therapy. Welcome, Dominik.
Thank you.
A few short years ago, gene therapy of retinal disease, or any disease of that for that matter, was the stuff of dreams. Now we are at the point of early clinical applications where we can order genomic testing and offer a treatment for an inherited retinal disease. Where are we with clinical research? What looks the most promising, do you think?
I think you're quite right in that gene therapy has really exploded over the last years. Plenty of interest, fortunately, from colleagues in the field and industry have really managed to pave the way and explore options for our patients. So very happy with that. I'm sure you are as well. I think the star of the show at the moment clearly is Luxturna. It's the first approved gene therapeutic agent in ophthalmology. It has been a long journey for Luxturna to come to the market, but it just shows you that persistence and good work pay off.
Is it an icebreaker, you think?
Certainly an icebreaker. I think there's going to be plenty more to come. Promising new strategies, I think I can see for diseases like X-linked choroidemia and X-linked retinitis pigmentosa, but also achromatopsia, BEST, and so forth, different forms of retinitis pigmentosa really. But I think after Luxturna, the second wave will probably come for choroidemia and X-linked RP.
Thank you. There are still a lot of questions about the delivery of the genetic therapy. What are your thoughts on intravitreal as opposed to subretinal delivery and so on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think generally the surgical aspect of gene therapy is still somewhat undervalued by a lot of people. It's quite important to understand that the surgery can make it a success or a failure in every single patient, really. And maybe in some diseases it's more tricky than in others. So certainly there is no one-fits-it-all approach. For example, if you have a end-stage LCA patient, where there is only a small island of remaining retinal cells and tissue, you can easily direct your one bleb to that tissue because all the rest will not benefit from the treatment. By doing a subretinal bleb, you can bring the viral vector directly to the target cells and avoid exposure of all the other tissue that wouldn't benefit from the treatment. So there, a subretinal approach makes great sense. Other diseases, maybe X-linked juvenile retinoschisis, maybe a intravitreal approach might be more a better strategy. But also suprachoroidal, I think, comes onto the table now, and it will need to be shown what works best for which disease.
Thank you. So what have we learned from our early clinical experience, and what are the lessons for the future, do you think, that we should take from them?
Well, there is plenty to be learned still, and I think we've seen from all the clinical trials so far what we can further improve based on clinical research. I think one item that stands out is endpoints. The question of how do we evaluate success in gene therapy for our patients? How do we capture the benefit for our patients? For example, patients that are just on the very low vision scale where ETDRS letters is not going to really capture the benefit for those patients, and their mobility assays might play a more important role, or patient-reported outcome measures, etc. So I think what we learned from the trial so far is that we have to keep an open mind on endpoints, and we have to invest a bit more brain and time and money in validating new tests.
So you as a surgeon, apart from a genetic specialist, what do you think about lessons that we learned from surface area retreatment? What do you think about those things?
Those are tough questions. So as a surgeon, I would say that, restate what I mentioned earlier. I think it is somewhat of an individual approach necessary per patient. Where do you put the retinotomy site? How much volume are you comfortable injecting at that place? Do you want to do a second retinotomy site and bleb in order to maybe increase a visual field for the patient? Do you go superior? Do you go inferior in terms of visual field? That of course makes a difference whether you trip over a stair or case or that kind of thing. So retreatment is another entire field with regard to immunological response. I think at the moment that AAV gene therapy is not going to be stopped by immunological profiles. I believe that we've learned enough that we can say AAV is generally safe in the eye.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And another question is then, what are the responsibilities that we have to the patient and the parents with regards to informed consent, etc.? In other words, what can we promise and what can we not, and how to inform? And
exactly. I think that's a delicate and important conversation that every doctor has on an everyday basis, really. You and me know very well that we have to inform the patient in a way that he can make an informed decision. It's not easy, especially if it gets as complicated as not only taking a headache painkiller, but getting a gene therapy done. So it's difficult to have a conversation. I personally find that patients are extremely well informed and have a very good understanding about the clinical research results, which of course is fantastic. But there's also a need for guidance, clearly. And you probably know best. You have, I think, advised the first patient to be enrolled in the pivotal trial for LCA. So I don't know, how much time did you spend explaining the kid and the parents about what can be expected?
multiple hours, multiple times, really. And if you're at fairly initial stages of development, then obviously knowledge is rather limited. And so what I think personally is important is that we, as you and me certainly do, and many others do, we take the time and the responsibility to make sure that the patient understands what we're actually trying to achieve and that we're not going to make them fighter jet pilots. People with retinal dystrophies are not the people who will walk out and do visually what we can do. And so as long as you have an understanding that the patient really gets this, then I'm okay with this. If patient expectations are far too high, then I try to tone them down a bit, and I'm sure you do the same.
Exactly. So in that sense, it doesn't really change anything from what we do on an everyday basis. It's the same, strategy for cataract surgery as well as macular hole surgery. Ideally, under promise and over perform.
Yeah, that's a good line. So another question was, products now entering the market are some of the most expensive medical treatments ever devised, and how can we expect healthcare systems to justify this expense, and how can we deal with this as societies?
That's another very important question, and of course the elephant in the room is the price tag for gene therapy being several hundred thousands of euros or pounds or US dollars per eye or per patient. And that of course impacts the healthcare system one way or another. Most people understand, of course, it's basically a zero-sum game. If you invest into the health of an individual patient a couple of $100,000, that money will be not available for another patient with a different aspect of a healthcare problem. So I think we have an ethical responsibility also towards society to guide, to find a way to mediate in that and to help guide price negotiations, really. Ultimately, it will depend on efficacy and durability. And I think we are not at the final stage yet. It's going to be interesting what the price tag of gene therapy will be in 20 years to come.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because obviously development prices, or development costs, I should say, are pretty high for such products now. Let's hope that as technology advances, that these prices do come down.
Of course. And, I mean, rich countries like the country you're working in or the country I'm working in might have less of a problem there. But we shouldn't forget that there are other countries where the healthcare system struggles to provide correct glasses for the patients with refractive error.
Absolutely.
And that's a different story there, of course.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dominik, and thank you for joining us. For more information on this and related topics, please visit us at euretina.org. Thank you.